Welcome, dear friends. Today you will be treated to a thrilling story of resilience, strength, and the triumph of the human spirit over the most brutal of challenges. Enjoy the story. Samantha stared at her husband Todd from across the kitchen table, a pit forming in her stomach. When had the man she married become this arrogant, selfish stranger? Maybe he had always been this way, and she had just been too blind to see it before. Well, her eyes were wide open now. "Todd, we need to discuss this apartment situation," she began carefully. "If we're going through with the purchase, I want us to put both our names on the deed." Todd's brow furrowed in confusion. "What? Why would we do that?" "Because it's only fair," Samantha insisted. "We've been saving up together for years to afford a place like this. Not to mention the money from selling my grandmother's house that I inherited. That's my contribution too. But for some reason you assumed this place would just be in your name." Todd let out an exasperated sigh, running a hand through his thinning hair. "Does it really matter that much? We're married. What's mine is yours. We're supposed to be a team." Samantha felt her temper flaring. How could he be so blasé about this huge financial decision that would impact both of their lives? "Of course it matters. I make twice what you do. I've put in most of the down payment money. Why should a man who works part-time as a cashier get sole ownership?" She could see his jaw tightening, knew this argument was only going to get uglier. "Either we put both our names on the deed, or I walk and take my half of the savings with me." For a long moment, Todd simply stared at her, seemingly unable to process her refusal to back down. His usual move was to pout and grumble until Samantha caved, as she so often did to keep the peace. But not this time. Finally, Todd threw up his hands in resignation. "Fine. Have it your way. We'll do the joint ownership thing. Geez, you really know how to take the air out of a guy's big moment." And just like that, the victory felt hollow. Because in winning this battle, Samantha feared she had lost a piece of her husband's respect. But she shouldn't have to beg for equality in their marriage, should she? In the months that followed the purchase and move to their new 2-bedroom apartment, Samantha worked tirelessly to turn it into a home. She took evening shifts at a diner and used the extra money to buy furniture, appliances, decorations, anything to make the plain white box they could afford feel welcoming and lived in. Meanwhile, Todd's work engagement became unreliable. There were many nights when Samantha went to bed alone, listening for his key turning in the lock long after midnight. She knew where he wasn't, gambling or wasting money at a bar, but she didn't know where he actually was on those late nights. She stopped asking after a while, not wanting to start fights. By their 3rd anniversary in the apartment, the writing was on the wall. Samantha's suspicions of Todd's infidelity were confirmed in the most heartless way possible. He simply announced one evening, as Samantha set a hot meal on the table, that he was leaving her for his young pregnant girlfriend Lindsay, and he fully expected Samantha to just move out. "Sorry, Sam, but it's over," he said with an indifferent shrug. "Lindsay's having my baby, and she'll need her own place. So do the decent thing here and take your stuff and go, would ya? Don't make this harder than it needs to be." If Samantha thought she had felt blindsided by Todd's casual cruelty before, that was nothing compared to this moment. Her mouth hung open, tears burning her eyes, as she struggled to reconcile the vile creature sitting before her with the loving, goofy man she had married. "Todd," she managed to choke out, "my name is on the deed too. This is just as much my home as yours, and if anyone should make themselves scarce, it's you." His eyes went wide with disbelief, and then narrowed to furious slits. "Like hell. I'm not going anywhere." Thus followed one of the ugliest, most protracted divorces their county had likely ever seen. If Samantha thought Todd's behavior couldn't get any more appalling, she was wrong. With each passing week, he seemed to reach new lows of pettiness and cruelty. It started with dividing up their possessions. Rather than just taking what was rightfully his, Todd nitpicked over every dish, every towel, demanding they literally split the set 50-50. He made snide comments about Samantha becoming a crazy cat lady living alone. His pregnant girlfriend Lindsay often tagged along, chiming in with her own barbed insults and demands. But the worst was yet to come. After the judge granted the divorce, awarding Samantha the right to remain in the apartment they had co-owned, Todd revealed his ultimate revenge. He had found a cash buyer for his half of the property. Some random stranger he smugly promised would make Samantha's life hell. Sure enough, a few weeks later, there was a new roommate in Samantha's apartment. A towering, muscle-bound man named Bryce, who looked like he could snap Samantha like a twig. He introduced himself by barging into the kitchen where Samantha was cooking, helping himself to her pots and pans to make a meal he claimed was for getting to know his new roomie over dinner. Samantha felt her stomach drop to the floor. This random threatening man was now co-owner of her home, all because her spiteful ex-husband wanted to make her life miserable. She started spiraling, fearing for her safety, wondering if she would be forced to move out after all. But then Bryce turned around and stopped cold, a look of shock and recognition crossing his rugged face. "Sammy? Samantha Collins? Oh my God, I never would have recognized you." Samantha felt her own jaw drop as it clicked into place. "Bryce? Bryce Larson? From high school?" Suddenly, they were both gasping with laughter and flinging their arms around each other in a tight embrace. Bryce was the funny, friendly captain of the football team that Samantha had had a crush on back in the day. He was the polar opposite of the creepy intruder she had feared. As they caught up over the dinner Bryce had prepared, Samantha poured out the entire story of her imploded marriage and Todd's despicable move of buying out just to torment her. By the end, there were tears in her eyes, but Bryce's expression was thunder. "That pathetic, petty son of a bitch!" he growled, pounding a thick fist into his palm. "Don't worry, Sammy. That asshole's not going to make your life a living hell, because as of right now, you and me are teammates again. I'm moving in for real." Over the next few months, Bryce made good on his vow to be Samantha's protector and closest friend. He used his construction worker's skills to make renovations and upgrades around the apartment. When Samantha's shitty car broke down, he helped her pick out an affordable replacement. And perhaps most importantly, he was a calming, stable presence after the tornado of chaos and hurt Todd had caused. Gradually, Samantha began to rediscover her old, bright, positive self. The dark circles faded from her eyes. Her smiles and laughter came more easily. She blossomed, and it was amazing to watch. For Bryce's part, he had fallen head over heels in love with this strong, resilient woman. He only wished he could have rescued Samantha from her nightmare sooner. Then, one fateful day, roughly 9 months after Bryce's unceremonious arrival, it happened. They were out running errands when Samantha froze in the mall corridor, because coming straight towards them was a sneering, drunken Todd and his baby mama Lindsay, holding an infant carrier. Well, if it isn't my ex-wife," Todd slurred, puffing out his chest in a sad display of bravado. "Finally decided to trade up and become a full-on whore, huh, Sammy? Hey, is that my kid she's—" Whatever filth he was about to spew was cut off by Bryce's fist slamming into Todd's nose with a sickening crunch. As Todd crumpled to the ground grasping his bloody face, Bryce stood over the crumpled, bloody form of Todd, a look of cold, barely restrained fury etched across his rugged features. "Listen to me very closely, you pathetic piece of shit," Bryce growled in a low, menacing tone. "This woman is 1,000,000 times the human being you could ever hope to be. After everything you've put her through with your arrogance, your cheating, your abuse, you're lucky all I did was break your nose." Todd whimpered, tears streaming from his rapidly swelling eyes as he cradled his injured face. Lindsay stood a few feet away, clutching the baby carrier and gaping in shock. Bryce jerked his head toward the exit. "Now get your skanky girlfriend and that poor kid out of our sight before I really lose my temper. If I ever see your miserable face anywhere near Samantha again, they'll need dental records to identify what's left of you." With that final bone-chilling promise, Bryce turned and gently took Samantha's arm, leading her away from the pathetic tableau while onlookers streamed around them. Once outside, he pulled her into a tight embrace as she dissolved into shuddering sobs against his chest. "It's okay, you're okay," he murmured over and over, stroking her hair. "He's never going to hurt you again, Sammy. I've got your back." And from that day forward, Bryce was true to his word. He became Samantha's fiercest protector, a sworn shield against any further torment from her monstrous ex-husband. In the following months, Their friendship evolved and deepened into something more. Bryce cherished Samantha's kind spirit, her strength, her sense of humor. And Samantha felt herself falling for Bryce's unwavering integrity, his warm affection, his gentle way. They were two souls who had been broken, who had found healing and newfound happiness together. Though the road was rocky, they helped one another rebuild a joyful, peaceful life. As for Todd, he went through a period of lying low and overcompensating with Lindsay, trying to convince himself and others that he was a devoted family man now. But his true selfish, misogynistic colors inevitably showed through. Lindsay finally wised up and left him after one drunken outburst too many, this time putting her precious son's safety over Todd's histrionics. With no money, no home, and in legal hot water, the sad sack loser was left grappling with the burned ashes of everything he had thrown away so callously. While Todd wasted away in self-inflicted squalor, Samantha and Bryce thrived. A few years later, in front of a picturesque church surrounded by loved ones, they joyfully exchanged vows and were married. The once shy, browbeaten Samantha was now a radiant vision of strength and love. As they danced together at the reception, she gazed up at the adoring face of her husband, her true soulmate, and knew she had finally found peace, respect, and happiness, no more merely existing in someone else's shadow. For the first time in her adult life, Samantha was truly living, freely, bravely, and on no but her own terms.